There are two small islands, North Rock and Machias Seal, in the gray waters between Canada and the US. There are no trees or minerals on them. On the first island, a solid block of rock is the last man-made lighthouse in Atlantic Canada. Meanwhile, the shores of the second island are covered with algae cast out of the water. The only thing of interest in the area seems to be the nesting grounds of birds. However, these unremarkable patches of land are highly prized for their lobsters. Coastal waters are rich in abundance with these richly flavored crustaceans, something both Americans and Canadians know about. While the states are engaged in a bitter political battle over ownership of the islands, local fishermen have been waging a real war. Once, an American fisherman tried to outrun a Canadian and get his gear early, but overdid it and got his thumb torn off. For many, even lobster fishing itself has been relegated to the sidelines. For them, the main thing is to be the first to take the point to demonstrate their right to the territory. Grand Manan Fishermen's Association President Brian Guptill, 51, has never sailed near the islands. But after the lobster conflict escalated, the man said he was going to raise hell there for a while. If one state were to formally and definitively acquire the rights to North Rock and Machias Seal, they would resolve the conflict. Not even necessarily taking the side of Canada or the US. What if an ordinary man sets up his empire on a deserted island? Do you think that's impossible? Then welcome to Eel Pie Island. It's just off the banks of the Thames in London and is connected to the city by a bridge. And yes, its name has something to do with the fish pies the locals once baked. In the 1960s, alternative musicians got seriously established here. Then they were joined by a group of anarchists. By the early 70s, Eel Pie Island had become the biggest hippie community in the country. Black Sabbath, The Who, and even the Rolling Stones all played here. People started to obtain passports for this strange state and even began to talk about its secession from Great Britain. At the time, the talk went no farther. But in 2005, British comedian Danny Wallace invaded the island and tried to take it over. He organized the action to film the comedy television series How to Start Your Own Country. Eel Pie Island belongs to the UK and is privately owned. It's home to just over 100 artists, and you can't get in without permission from a resident. But what if the island is genuinely uninhabited? Is it then possible to establish a new, full-fledged state? As practice shows, it is possible to do so without owning even a square meter of land. In Burgu, Republic of Malta, is Fort St. Angelo. In 1998, a particular Order of Malta issued a 99-year lease on the part of the fortification. It is also often referred to as the only country without land. By law, it is a state-like entity and is recognized by 110 sovereign countries. The Order of Malta's ambassadors maintain diplomatic relations with them. Representatives of this unique entity are also among the UN and the European Union observers. It's the oldest religious order by chivalry globally, serving the Roman Catholic Church. It originated around 1048 and in 1113 was recognized by the Pope. Nevertheless, there are more than 80 micronations registered in the world. Often these are bizarre, self-proclaimed entities that don't even claim sovereignty. They were founded as an experiment, a political protest, a creative expression, or even a joke. Therefore, nothing is stopping you from waiting until 2047, when the lease of the upper fort is renegotiated between Malta and the Order. And if you have enough money to outbid them, you can declare your state here. But there are other options. Visitors to a park in English Portsmouth often stroll around the local lake. Many notice small islands called Lagoon Islands in the middle of the body of water. In 2005, local school teacher Louis Robert Harold Stevens discovered an exciting detail. It turned out that they did not mention these small plots of land in the 1938 United Kingdom land sales contract. That is, in law, they are no man's land. The teacher proclaimed himself Duchy of the Lagoon Islands as ruler. It now has a flag, coat of arms, motto, and anthem, as well as 30 people in subjection. But this state remains purely virtual. The islands themselves are still deserted. They are unclaimed by anyone and have no official owner. Nothing prevents one from sailing to them by boat and planting one's country flag there. There are other no-man lands in the world. For example, the tiny island of Rockall, which Britain and Ireland can't share. Iceland and the Faroe Islands may also have a geographical claim to the land, but the problem is, nobody wants it. Rockall is a part of an extinct volcano that rises 17 meters above the sea and is only 25 meters wide. The island is fascinating only because it set a world record in 2014. Certified surveyor Nick Hancock stayed on Rockall for 43 days, 3 days longer than the previous record. The unclaimed land includes the area between Egypt and Sudan called Bur Tawil. The two states cannot decide which is the correct boundary, either the political boundary established in 1899 or the administrative boundary from 1902. The area of more than 2,000 square kilometers belongs to no one and is unpopulated. Not surprisingly, as Bur Tawil is a harsh desert. The situation is similar in Antarctica and parts of East Greenland. There too are disputed lands that you can stake your flag on, but these are harsh places with no living conditions. Plus, it was initially about the islands. Let's get back to them. There aren't many uninhabited islands that don't belong to any country. Some of them, like the above-mentioned North Rock and Machias Seal, is in disputed territories. Others arise from volcanic eruptions. For example, after the Hunga Tonga Hunga Haipai eruptions in 2014-15, an archipelago was formed with only 2 islands. When scientists landed on the new land in 2018, they covered it in vegetation. So far, it's only the 3rd volcanic island in the last 150 years that hasn't disintegrated a few months after the eruption. Moving back to Foggy Albion, large ferries are running regularly between Northern Ireland and Scotland. If you board one, you'll spot a local landmark, the towering Elisa Crag in the middle of the water. The island was used by the Catholic Church in the 16th century. It later passed into private ownership and is now owned by the 9th Marquis of Elisa, David Thomas Kennedy. The man put it up for sale for as little as £1.5 million. And while there were no buyers, the Marquis leased Allied Crag to the Royal Society for the Protection of Birds. They've set up a bird sanctuary there, as the island is a massive breeding ground for boobies. And since 1851, they've been mining curling stones there. The future owner can go into business for himself. £1.5 million is a lot of money for most people. However, don't be discouraged. There are about 700 islands for sale in the world. In Belize, for example, you can buy a plot of land on the island of Cay, Belize. The undeveloped 2-acre land has its sandy beach and protected harbor. But most importantly, this paradise on the planet is valued at just $499,000. If that's too expensive, there are always cheaper options. On specialist websites, the price for no man's land starts at $100,000. The lowest price for an acre of land on Gaufu Island, Chile, is around $405. True, the total value of the island and its area will cost $20 million. When leaving aside all the financial issues, there is a more important one, the political one. The new state must be recognized by most sovereign countries and international organizations. Even Antarctica, with all its research bases, has not been given real country status by the United Nations. There are international norms that allow a territory to be recognized a state or subject of international law, as in the case of Order of Malta. No powerful country would seriously consider recognizing a self-proclaimed power on a deserted island. Many nations are still struggling to establish a sovereign state. Kurdistan is in constant military conflict with Turkey and Palestine, with Israel. Amid such conflicts, a half-hearted attempt to create a new state on its own will be ridiculed or ignored by the international community. However, no one stops people from having fun and drawing attention to themselves. A good example is the People's Republic of Pakistan. It was in the territory of Northern Ireland, and it was a large mansion. The building itself was called the People's Palace. The Republic, which declared independence from Northern Ireland in 2010, was ruled by Simon Stewart. Although the idea itself looked amusing, the founders of Pakistan were trying to draw attention to their home country's political problems. But in 2019, they announced that the People's Republic of Pakistan no longer existed. Many micronations have also tried to point out the problems that exist. In Bosnia and Herzegovina, the Hajduk Republic was proclaimed in 2002. Locals protested against electricity problems in the region. In 2014, the Glacier Republic, founded by Greenpeace, emerged on the Chile-Argentina border. According to them, Chile was not doing enough to protect the glacier environment. There have been other projects too, with less social responsibility. In 1993, an Australian man declared his farm the sovereign principality of Marlborough to avoid eviction and bankruptcy. That didn't help the man. The case went to court and he quickly abandoned his claim to independence. Kevin Baugh, a former American military man, proclaimed the formation of the Molise micronation in 1999. Of course, it has not been recognized by any state. A year later, Baugh announced the foundation of the Inter-Micronational Olympic Games. The American calls his wife the First Lady of Molise, and it looks like he's just having fun. And if you could create your state, in which territory would you do it? Write down your thoughts in the comments section below. If you like the video, like it and subscribe to our channel.